to take us away?
I would love to. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today with Peninsula Clean Energy as we're going to be talking about what every property manager should know about our EV charging. EV charging. My name is Steve Wilcox. I work on with Clear Result, and we are the EV charging program support group for Peninsula Clean Energy. We handle the technical assistance side of the program, and we are here to help answer any questions that you have. If you ever call the hotline or send emails into the general email inbox support, that comes to us and typically comes to me directly. And so, with that, I would like to kick over to the next slide and some important information. Webinar protocols. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be posted later. Links will come out, and I believe it might also be on YouTube if that is correct, Melanie. All attendees are going to be in listen-only mode the entire time. Mics and cameras are also disabled. Type any questions or comments either using the chat or the Q&A feature. I will find them. I will then read them back out to the group or let the group know, and we will answer them from there. And any of those comments or things, please be respectful. These are things everybody will see. Also, lastly, a disclaimer, PCE's EV Ready Technical Assistance Program serves as a vendor-agnostic, neutral third-party technical expert to our PCE customers. Any reference to products and or services during this webinar should not be interpreted as either an implicit or explicit endorsement. Vendors should not use this webinar to promote their products and or services. I would also then like to introduce everybody to our presenters. Leading off everything will be Melanie Jasper. She is with Peninsula Clean Energy and the Associate Program Manager and is the one who's in charge of our lovely EV technical or EV program. And then Michael Martin with Clear Result. He is our account manager who handles all of the accounts on the technical assistance side. So he is our face who you will be working with if you work with the program and need technical assistance. And then George, lastly, is George. He is also with Clear Result, and he is our program manager who will be leading today's presentation. And here's the agenda, and on to you, George.
Melanie,
That's
you
going
want to
to
kick us
be,
off there?
yeah, on to me first. So thank you everyone for joining today. Again, I'm Melanie Jasper. I'm with Peninsula Clean Energy. And just real quick, our agenda here today, I'm going to give you a short general program background, talk a little bit about the EV Ready program offering and process. And then we're going to get really into the meat of this webinar, which is our technical deep dive. And we're going to talk about some different technologies out there for EV charging and just what property owners should understand when they're going through and selecting an option that's right for their property. Then we'll have a good amount of time left at the end here for a general Q&A. So please think of your questions at any time. Again, you can put those in the Q&A or the chat. And also, just so everyone's aware, attached to the end of this presentation are some additional resources which will be sent out afterwards and be available to everyone who's here today. All right, so a couple main takeaways from today's webinar. First off is that we are here to provide technical assistance to anyone and everyone in PCE territory. That's the County of San Mateo and the City of Los Baños. Both businesses and multifamily apartments can qualify. It could be public charging, it could be workplace charging for your property, it could be multifamily. And what our program offers is twofold. We offer rebates, so dollars, in your pocket to help you install EV charging. And then we also offer technical assistance. So what that means specifically is that we'll send someone to your site, we'll assess your electrical equipment on site, we'll do also a remote analysis and work with you to put together some customized solutions for your property. All right, we can hop into the next slide. So a little bit about who Peninsula Clean Energy is and why I'm here today talking to everyone. So PCE, we're a locally led electricity provider. What this means, so if you look at the diagram here on this slide, we are actually generators of electricity. So we are choosing clean, renewable resources to provide electricity to the grid to everyone in our service territory. And that's really a part of our mission, which is reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And this also comes back to what my favorite part of my job is, which is that we're a nonprofit as well, which is to say that everything made from the generation of electricity, everything we make from those sales gets reinvested into the community through our community programs. So that's what this is here. That's how we're here today. This is a part of our commitment and our reinvestment in our community. The EV Ready program, we've been around over 5 years at this point, and in that time, we've installed over 1,500 chargers across our service territory and worked one-on-one with over 400 property owners and property managers. And again, that support that we offer, it takes the form of both rebates for level 1, level 2, both outlets and chargers. And again, that complimentary design assistance where we can work with you to answer these complicated questions that we're going to get to later in this presentation and help you really understand the best options for your specific property. So just a little bit more detail here for Peninsula Clean Energy and our work with ClearResults. So before I hand it off to George and Michael, ClearResult, they are our EV Ready program partner. There are consultants on this program who are offering these technical assistance services. And so if you were to enroll in technical assistance, you will get a call from Michael, and he'll be the one who is leading that process. It will be ClearResult as well, who will lead the technical analysis of your property. All right, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Michael here. Michael, looks like you
Michael,
might
you're on mute.
Guys.
There
No,
we go.
thank you again, Melanie. We're good here. Sorry. Yeah, I just want to say the ClearResult, we're happy to be a proud partner working with Peninsula Clean Energy on this exciting program. ClearResult is a consulting company. We're corporately headquartered in Austin, Texas. We work with a number of utilities across the country on various clean sustainability programs. So again, happy to be a proud partner here. So as it relates to what's happening currently today in San Mateo County, the question simply is, electric vehicles are here. The question is, are you ready? As you can see by some bullet points here, 1 in 4 cars sold in San Mateo County in 2024 was an EV. Your customers are changing. Are your sites keeping up? Do you have existing residents that are asking you questions about if you're going to, or if there's plans to install EV charging on the site? If you're interviewing potential future tenants and residents, are they inquiring with you about do you currently have EV charging on your site, or is there any future plans to do so? Is EV charging or is not having EV charging affecting your business at all? So these are a number of questions that you're going to need to consider when you evaluate whether you're going to get involved or not. If you want to move forward, how many chargers should you install? Will those be EV charging stations? Will they be charging outlets? Will your service need to be upgraded? Will you be future-proofing, or as we call it, make-ready spaces in terms of putting in your charging infrastructure to prepare you for the future? Who's going to own the chargers? How much do the EV drivers have to pay, et cetera, et cetera? So these are things that all kind of come as a part of the decision-making process. What we're here to do as PCE is to be your go-to EV charging resource with incentives, providing you recommendations which include design assistance. We have a number of incentives for various levels. Here you can see existing building, multifamily. We offer incentives for both level 1 and level 2 outlets. We offer incentives for level 2 charging stations. We also offer infrastructure upgrades, which would be a main panel upgrade. If you're a part of our affordable housing community, we also offer a program for you as it relates to level 1, level 2 outlets, level 2 EV charging stations / ports, and also a main panel upgrader as well. If you're a workforce with a large parking lot for your employees, or if you have a large lot that is accessible by the public but obviously falls in a non-residential category, we also offer incentives for you as well. This is kind of the path of the customer journey. It pretty much starts off by submitting an application, followed up by a site walk, in-person site walk by a member of our EV engineering team. What we'll do is gather the capacity estimate to see exactly what type of available electrical capacity you do have to install either EV chargers or outlets. We'll come back to you with some recommendations relative to a design layout. You'll go through the bidding process for the purposes of selecting a contractor. That contractor that you select will be responsible for acquiring the work permits from the city, obviously doing the work and installing the EV equipment. We like to call it EVSC, electric vehicle supply equipment. Once the installation is complete and your facility or your site location is up and running, then you would send in a site verification form. We'll go to PCE. They will review all the required paperwork, and then you could expect to receive your rebate/incentive check back within a 3 to 5 week window. In terms of the report that you would receive from us after we've had a chance to assess your property and do a thorough analysis, we'll give you a report. It looks like this. It will be delivered to you as a PDF. It includes a scope of work. We'll take a look at various charging installations. You could expect to receive up to 3 EV charger installation scenarios. This is what they would look like. This would be part of that same PDF report, which also includes, excuse me, the scope of work. And in addition, this PDF can be used to request bids from the contractors of your choosing. This also includes a summary page, which includes the cost estimates to you. And the next step, or call it the first step, would be first to enroll in our free design assistance program. You can see here by the illustration, you feel free to scan the code. This will require submitting an enrollment form, including the site walk, as I mentioned earlier, going through the full charging evaluation presentation process, and the bidding and contractor selection. Once things are up and moving, then you would be responsible for applying for the rebate. We want to rebate, hold your money. So you would go ahead and fill out the application for the rebate reservation and installation form. And then once you have the designs and everything is moving, as I mentioned earlier, you will submit a installation verification form. And once it has been evaluated and approved, then you can expect to receive your incentive check. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to George Kopf, and then we'll do more of a deep dive specifically for the property managers.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael, so much. So here's the agenda that we put together for our technical deep dive for property managers. And the way that we selected this agenda is these are the questions that we, as the neutral third-party technical experts on this program, these are the questions we get asked the most. And we thought this would be valuable information for property managers who are thinking about installing EV chargers at their property. So let's start with house meter versus direct meter. So to start with, let's talk about meters. And this might be something that you've seen in a property. This is what's called a meter bank. And if you look over here, we see the tenant meter. So each one of these meters goes to a specific unit, like an apartment, and it measures all the electricity that's being used by that apartment. So lamp, microwave, the hairdryer, TV, whatever. But then there's also a separate meter that's for all of the other electricity being used on site. So the exterior lights, the laundry room, if there's a gym, things like that. So when we talk about direct metering or house metering, when we're talking about direct metering, we're talking about wiring the EV charger so that the electricity is being measured directly on the tenant's meter. So this is really common, basically, where you're going to see the same charger being used or assigned to the same unit or the same tenant. It's very common with HOAs or smaller rentals where every parking space is always fixed to the same unit. Now, the other option is to measure all of the electric vehicle charging through the house meter. And this is more common when you have shared or guest parking spaces or larger rentals where tenants are assigned or tenants are not assigned a charger. So, so let's talk about how the electricity, like who's the customer and how does it get routed and all that. So let's take this direct wiring instance first. So in this situation, the tenant is the PG&E customer, and their charger is either owned by the tenant or sometimes it's owned by the site host, but typically in these situations it's owned, or most commonly it's owned by the tenant. And that EV charger is routed through the individual's meter. So that means that every time they plug their car in, that electricity that's being used to charge that car is being routed through their meter, which means that they're going to be paying for that electricity the same as they would be paying for the electricity that they use for their TV or microwave or lights or whatever. Now, the other option is when the site host owns the EV charging. So this involves the site host owning all of the electric vehicle charging equipment. And then all of those EV chargers are routed through the house meter. So the property site host has one meter that's measuring all of the charger's usage. And then every time a driver plugs in their car, they're going to be paying the site host. So how does that work? How does the site host collect payment from the EV driver? And the answer is using a third-party EV charging software platform. Now, these are third-party vendors, and they call themselves different names. There's the Charging Station Management Company or e-mobility service provider. Sometimes they call themselves network service providers. But basically what they do is they have chargers that are connected to their platform via the internet. And then the site host pays a subscription fee to have access to that software platform. And that that subscription fee gets them access to different features, depends from one vendor to the next. And some vendors have different packages, but generally speaking, you're going to get access control. So the site host can say who has access to which chargers. The site host can set the price. There's a lot of different features there. So how does that look? How does that work for the EV driver to get their money to the site host so that they can pay PG&E? Well, you have the site host, they subscribe to the EV charging vendor. When the EV driver shows up at the station, they'll pay for their charging session. That electricity that they're consuming to charge their car gets routed through the house meter. And then the EV charging vendor collects all those fees and delivers those collected fees to the site host, who then pays PG&E. Obviously, there's fees involved, and those vary from vendor to vendor, but that's the general idea. Now, one of the questions that we get a lot of times, or get very frequently, is how do we know how much to charge our tenants if we're going to be charging them per kilowatt hour? And the answer is, well, it kind of depends on what's your goal. If your goal is that the charging should be free, well, that makes it pretty easy. Or maybe the site host wants to make the charging a loss leader. So they're willing to offer discounted charging as a way to attract a tenant. Maybe they want to break even, maybe they want to generate profit. And finding that break-even point is something that actually we provide as the neutral third-party technical advisors on the program. Will assess the situation and look at several different factors and then give you a scenario. Say, look, and if you're going to do this, then you're going to want to start with 31 cents a kilowatt hour. And that'll be your break-even point. So if you want to generate revenue, then you'll want to charge more than 31 cents. If you want to charge less, there you go. Pretty straightforward. And how do you collect? How does the site host collect the fees? One way to do it is a flat rate, just add it to the fee. And again, we offer a similar operation model to this that would just give you, look, if you're going to do a flat monthly rate, add it to the tenant's rent, here's how much you would add to that if you want to break even. The other way we see very frequently is if the site host wants to collect $1 per kilowatt hour. And in that case, the EV driver would start the charging session with either their smartphone or like a key fob on their keychain. And that's how they would identify who they are. And then the site host would be able to give them access to that charger. So I saw in the Q&A, someone was asking about the different levels of charging. Boy, did you come to the right webinar, because that's the next slide. So for our analytical learners, this is a quick overview of the 4 different levels of charging. The first is just what we call level 1 charging. Sometimes this is referred to as trickle charging. It's a very slow rate of charging, but the good thing is it uses just a regular 110, 120 volt outlet, just like you would plug your lamp into at your home. You just plug the EV charger right into it. There's I think a misconception, a general misconception, that this is not a serious level of charging. And the truth is, it is very much a serious level of charging. Case in point, I'm an EV driver. I've had an EV for over 5 years. We have only ever used level 1 charging for 5 years, and it has met all of our charging needs for 5 years. So it works great, and it's definitely a legit way to charge a car, but you'll only get about 40 to 60 miles on a 12-hour charging session. But that will meet a lot of commuters' daily charging needs. The next level up would be, think about the kind of outlet that you would use for your dryer, where it's just a little beefier outlet, and that's called low power level 2. That you can get considerably more charging, almost twice as much. And then from there, you got level 2, which is an even beefier charger, and that will get you up to 240 miles, which would max out. That would completely fill up most batteries. And then the last type of charging is called DCFC. That stands for direct current fast charging. And that's not covered through this program. And that's typically only something you'll see on a travel corridor. Like if you're driving from Los Angeles to San Francisco and you're going great distances and you just need to charge quickly, you can charge almost completely full in less than an hour, depending on the car. Now, this is the slide for our analytical learners. Now let's do a slide on the same topic for our visual learners. And for those folks, here we see a trickle charge. That's your level 1. And then your low power level 2, think of it as like a garden hose compared to your faucet, so you get a little bit more. And then if you want to think about level 2, it's more of like fire hose compared to a garden hose. And then your direct current fast charging, that's like a waterfall. It's a whole different level of charging. So those are the different levels of charging. Now let's talk about the different ways that you get the electricity into the car. Now, one of the most common ways is EV charger outlets. And this is just what it sounds like. There's an outlet in the wall, you plug your EV charger in, you plug it into the car, you're done. And in fact, most EVs, when you buy them, they come with a convenience charger. In fact, the one on the screen is my convenience charger that came with my Leaf when I bought it. So it's a nice little backpack, and you plug it right into a regular 110, 120 outlet. And then there are also, you can get low power level 2 and level 2 outlet chargers that just plug straight into the outlet. And then you just plug the connector into the inlet on the EV. Off you go. Now, one of the great things about being a PCE customer who has access to this program is that PCE has reached out to vendors and negotiated some preferred pricing with some of these vendors. So if you enroll in this program and you decide that you want to use one of these vendors, you'll actually get a better deal than if you just went to them as an individual instead of going through to the vendors through the program. So those are the EV charging outlets. Now let's talk about EV charging stations. So they vary depending. There's lots of different models out there, but these are the typical main components. So you have the module, which is basically a glorified light switch. It has a connector or contactor in there, and when it's engaged, it allows electricity to flow, and when it's not engaged, the electricity doesn't flow. You have a cable, just a bundled group of conductors. Some EV chargers have a cable management system, not all of them do, but then they'll all end in a connector. And that's what you plug into the vehicle inlet. So let's look at the different types of connectors. The most common one in North America is the J1772. It's often referred to as the J plug. And that'll cover level 1, low power level 2, and level 2. Its big brother is the combined charging system, which if you look at it, you'll notice the top part of it looks just like the J-plug, because it is. And then the bottom part has these 2 additional ports, and that's for the direct current fast charging. You may be familiar with the Tesla or the North America Charging Standard connector. That one actually cover L1 all the way up through DCFC. And the last type of connector you might see here in America for a little bit more is the CHAdeMO. Those are actually being phased out, and they're just for direct current fast charger. Just to be clear, only the J1772 is eligible for rebates through PC's programs. And again, PCE has negotiated some preferred pricing with several vendors who sell the EV charging equipment. So if you're interested in getting a station, there are definitely lots of options. And if you go through our program, we would be happy to put you in touch with the different vendors. Okay, moving on to our last 2 topics. Let's talk about networked versus non-networked equipment. So basically, if it's an EV charger that's connected to the internet, it's networked. If it's not connected to the internet, it's non-networked. There's some nuances to that, but generally speaking, the networked has some advantages over the non-networked, but we'll get into those in just a second. The main difference there is if you have networked equipment, you're going to be subscribing to a third-party vendor, one of those software platform operators. And if it's non-networked, there's no need for that. So the upsides of the networked equipment is that it's going to give you access to reporting, and you can see if the chargers are working remotely. You can define who has access to the equipment. The downside is they tend to be more expensive up front. There's ongoing fees. You may or may not need an electrician to repair or replace the equipment. Also, if it's networked, that means it needs to be weights and measure compliant. So if you pull into a gas station and you look at the gas pump, there will be a sticker on there that says this gas pump has been certified and is compliant with the weights and measurements, meaning that if you buy a gallon of gas from that machine, you're getting a full gallon. Same idea here. The EV driver has to know that if they're buying a kilowatt hour of electricity, that it's actually dispensing the kilowatt hour that they're paying for. Non-networked, the upside is they tend to be lower upfront costs. There's no ongoing fees. Most repairs and replacement can be handled by on-site facility maintenance staff. And there's no need for the weights and measurement compliance. Downside is there's no remote monitoring. You can't disaggregate the different usage from the different chargers. And really, if the site host wants to charge the tenants, the only way to do it is with a flat fee. Now, on a couple of these slides, you'll notice that I use the term power management. This has come up a couple of times. So one of the devices that allows non-networked EV charging to have access to the power management feature is the RVE DCC9. Again, this is worked out as a preferred pricing vendor. But let's talk about, and this is our last topic. We're going to wrap it up on this one. This is our most technical. So we saved, this is the hardest part of it all, is power management, or as it's also sometimes referred to as automated load management. So what is power management or automated load management? Basically, the idea is it allows you to safely increase the quantity of EV charging while using the same electrical capacity. So how does that work? And basically what it does is it reduces the power output of the EV chargers when multiple EV chargers are in use. Why do you bother to do this? Because it saves you money, it saves you time. If using an automated load management system can help you avoid a service upgrade or a transformer upgrade, it has paid for itself many times over. Okay, now this is a very technical topic. There's just no way around it. So I have found that it's easiest to talk about technical topics using kittens. So we're going to think of the power management, automated load management system problem as a kitten and milk problem. Now, here we have my pitcher of milk, and I have my one kitten, Socks. And when it's just Socks, Socks gets all the milk. He gets 100% of the milk. But when I introduce Mittens, now I have to split the available milk between Socks and Mittens. So they're both getting milk, but they're only getting half, whereas before Mittens or Socks was getting all of the milk to himself. Now when I introduce Buttons, I have to split the available milk between all three of my kittens. Now they're all getting milk, and it's all enough. They're all getting plenty of milk, but I have to split it between the three of them. Now it's the exact same concept with automated load management. I have a certain amount of electrical capacity. If I plug one EV in, then that EV gets all of that circuit's capacity. When I plug in two EVs, now the automatic load management system says, I have two cars charging at the same time. I'm going to automatically split my available capacity between the two cars that are charging. And when I introduce a third car, you guessed it. Now all three cars are getting the same amount of electricity capacity. And that's all they're going to get because that's all the available capacity that's there for them. Now, what happens if I introduce a fourth EV? Well, this is all the capacity that I have, and I have to deliver a minimum amount of capacity. So that fourth EV doesn't get any electricity. And the automatic load management system sets all this up and does this all automatically. Now, when my first EV finishes charging or disconnects, that capacity becomes available. So now my new EV, my fourth EV, has available capacity and it can start charging. When the second EV finishes or disconnects, now the automatic load management system is going to know that it has enough capacity to give 50-50 between the two remaining EVs. And then when that third car disconnects or finishes charging, all of that available capacity gets sent to the fourth EV. So that's automated load management in a nutshell. Very quickly, we're right at the bottom of the hour. And just to wrap up the main points here, when you decide that you're going to move forward with an EV charger installation, there are a lot of questions that need to be answered to make sure that you get the right situation, the right chargers for your site. And that's exactly why we are here. We're here to help you answer these questions that you see on your screen. So let's go ahead and move to the Q&A portion. And if you get inspired, if you're really interested, go ahead and scan that QR code. That'll take you right to the technical advising enrollment form, and you can just enroll there. If you need additional information or if you want to reach out to us, there's our contact information. And we will use the next half hour or so to answer questions. And let's see what we have. Steve, do we have any questions right out of the gate that we want to work on answering?
We've kind of answered a bunch of them in chat, Melanie and I have, but if you want to, I will still bring up a couple of them just because.
Yeah, sure, let's do it.
Yeah, I don't think it would hurt to talk through these,
Yeah.
even if you have typed answers, just to make sure everyone has their questions answered.
Yeah. So the first one, which came in from an anonymous attendee, says, can PCE instead of PG&E be the site energy host, energy provider? Melanie answered that pretty well, but I don't know if you wanted to reiterate it.
Yeah, I could just speak on this quickly because I think it is a confusing topic. And so, yeah, if you recall one of the earlier slides, I had that diagram, but really both your electricity reaches your homes here in San Mateo County by the efforts of both Peninsula Clean Energy and PG&E. Ultimately, Peninsula Clean Energy is selecting the resources that provide that electricity. We're purchasing and procuring, solar, wind, hydro, renewable sources that will power the grid. But PG&E does own the distribution, the actual power lines that you see in the neighborhood that delivers that electricity. That's why we show up together on your PG&E bill. So if you look at your bill for a property that's within our service territory, you will see both Peninsula Clean Energy chargers and PG&E charges.
Excellent. I also saw a question in here that we do get frequently, which is, does the EV Ready program rely wholly or in part on federal funding, given what's happening in Washington? Melanie, you want to field that one?
Yeah, I think, and this is good. I actually wish I had said it earlier on this slide, but it's good for everyone to be aware because I know there is some uncertainty in the future political funding. And the good news for us in our program is that we are fully self-funded. As I said, we don't keep any of our profits from the sales of electricity. That's all generated back into the community. And in that sense, this is we're fully funding this program with profits from the sale of electricity. That is part of our reinvestment strategy. And, I can't guarantee years and years of money left to come, but I can say that we don't plan on pulling any funding for this program anytime soon. We're really looking to grow.
Absolutely. Let's see. Are there any other questions, Steve, that jumped out to you right out of the gate? I see a few more.
We've got a bunch of fresh ones that have come in. I was just going to have one last one that we had previously answered, just get publicly answered before we go to it. And that question was from Renee, which was the outlet charger a one-time charge or a yearly charge? And that was when you were presenting the outlet charging solutions, though, with like Go EV and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I'll let you speak a second on that.
Sure. Short answer is if you're going to be using like a Go Power EV, it's there is the upfront cost to purchase equipment, and then there's an ongoing fee. The other option is to do like a direct wired, just regular 110, 120 volt outlet directly tied to the tenant's meter. That's definitely an option. And then there's no ongoing fee because it's just a regular outlet, just like the one that you have in your living room that you plug your lamp into it. You just plug the EV right into it. That's definitely an option. And the question is, what's the right option for you in that particular site? And the answer is, we don't know. We need more information. We would need to go out on site we'll send an engineer on site to gather that information, and then we'll present you with different solutions. We'll listen to what are you interested in, and that's definitely one of the scenarios that we'll put together for you. But then, because we know the program and we've done so many installations, we can say, well, we understand that you're thinking about doing 20 just regular outlets routed through the tenant meters, and that's definitely an option. But if you did this other option, it would be a better deal for you because it's going to maximize the incentives, or it's going to provide some other feature that would make more sense in your particular situation. But that's where our technical advising comes in, and basically helps you figure out what's the best situation for you. All right. Any other in the chat that jumped out?
Yeah, a bunch of fresh ones that have recently come in. Let's see. This one is from Jeff, which is kind of a follow-up from his earlier question, which Melanie had asked, talking about for apartments, what should it be connecting to? Should it be house meters and other stuff like that? He has a follow-up question. Is they develop new projects, so the question is for new construction, is it best to design a dedicated EV meter or to put one in on the house panel?
Yeah, so if you look at new construction, the current Cal Green Building Code, and I think the newer updates that I believe are going to be published next January, go into this even in more detail, but they actually recommend to install on the tenant's meters first, where it makes sense. So that would be the situation where each parking space is assigned to a given rental unit, and it's hardwired directly onto that unit's residential unit's meter. And in that way, again, it's nice because there's no real billing involved for the property manager there. The charges for that will appear directly on the tenant's bill. However, there is exceptions there for new construction where it's financially infeasible or in other ways impractical for the project to connect to the tenant's meters. That is something that we could help you discuss and assess for your property if you'd like to enroll in technical assistance. But yeah, generally, it's recommended to go to the tenant's meter. I guess the other question here, so if you are going to tie them to a central meter and then use a billing solution, in that case, if you have the option to put in a second meter, a dedicated EV meter, it is going to be less expensive ongoing. The EV only electric rate, the BEV rate is what's currently offered, is significantly cheaper, like 10, 15 cents cheaper than other commercial rates out there. So it is an advantage. If you have the option to physically install it on a separate dedicated EV meter, that is a very viable option for new construction as well.
And real quick, Melanie, follow-up question. Does PCE incent new EV chargers or chargers for new construction?
Yeah, so we don't offer the same incentives for new construction as we do for existing, just because, retrofitting a project tends to be more challenging and more expensive. But what we do offer for new construction is that we cannot provide incentives to help you meet building code, but we can offer incentives if you're interested in going beyond building code, which can work out, for your property, because say you're required to, by code, to put in 20 chargers or 20 outlets, and you put in 40 with the help of our incentives. Those incentives might end up covering, more than the additional 20 outlets at the end of the day. And that's what we're helping, is to make it feasible to choose to go bigger. Like, that option is available to you. I will say, as an exception, if you are an affordable housing operator, if you have an affordable housing new construction, then we can help you meet code. We can help you fund any and all chargers and outlets that you're putting in. So please, reach out to us for those resources.
And that's a perfect lead into the next two questions from Ebenezer and from Peter. Ebenezer asking, what do you suggest for low-income housing? Are there any options that are favorable for low-income housing? And short answer is, yeah, absolutely. For one thing, PCE offers incentives that are specific to affordable housing. But then beyond that, this is exactly why the technical advising program exists, is let us come onto site, see what's going on that particular site, and we can definitely help you find the most cost-effective option to. And something else to think about is, Michael mentioned this before, he used the term future-proofing. Or make ready. And that's a really important concept to introduce into the discussion, which is to say, maybe it makes sense for you to install 5 chargers right now. But while you're installing those 5, you go ahead and install the additional infrastructure to make ready, installing 5 more down the road. So you're not paying for the all 10 up front, but you're still getting a good rebate, a good incentive to install the EV charging infrastructure now. And then as you get more tenants who have EVs and are asking, hey, when can I get some EV charging? You say, good news, I got the wiring all set up. We just have to send out our facilities guy. He's going to plug in a new outlet and you're off and running. It's a really good kind of growth strategy that doesn't involve all of the capital outlay right out of the gate. And instead, it allows you to kind of space it out. Peter's asking about nonprofit faith-based organization. He wants to be an intermediary working with other faith buildings or other Section 8 housing communities to encourage adoption. So how can they work with PCE to target potential clients? And I think there's some great opportunities there. Melanie, do you want to talk about that for a moment?
Yeah, I love this question from Peter. We're definitely excited to work with nonprofit and faith-based organizations. And in fact, we've started to see, churches, mosques, synagogues appear as great options for public charging, especially since these buildings are only in use typically, a few set hours out of the week. So by offering, publicly accessible charging at your location, that's a great way to provide a service to the community and have those chargers accessible for your community, even in off hours when they're not necessarily there for, faith services. We would love to work with you on that. And like those sites would qualify under the like publicly accessible charging section of our incentives. And as far as reaching out, please get in touch with us. I think we'd be happy to work with an organization to maybe identify some potential sites and discuss that with you guys.
And you'd be working with Michael, and yes, Michael can definitely help you with that. That is right up his alley. There was a question on here about using power management. And the question is, when you're splitting capacity across multiple cars, does that mean that each car charges slower? And the short answer is yes. When you're not delivering as much electrical capacity to each EV charger, yes, they do take longer to charge. The way to think about this is, would you rather have the ability to charge 4 cars a little bit or only 1 car a whole bunch? And again, I mean, it kind of depends on your situation and your particular site, but most of the times it makes sense to go ahead and make sure that everyone can get some charging. Something to think about here. Charging an EV is very different from filling an internal combustion engine's gas tank. And specifically what I mean is, charging an EV is something you do while you do something else. Let me say that again. Charging an EV is something you do while you do something else. So when you plug your phone in to charge, do you stand there and wait for your phone to charge? I mean, maybe if you're at the airport and you got nowhere to sit, you have to stand there and watch your phone charge. Otherwise, you charge while you're sleeping. You charge it while you're at work. You charge it while you're watching TV or on the computer. But it's not typically something that's the only activity you're doing. It's kind of the same thing with EV charging. When you plug an EV in, you're at work, you're sleeping. It's something you do while you're doing something else. So even if it does take 8 hours, not a big deal. And it's also the idea that, well, maybe I'll charge a little at home. I'll charge a little bit at the office. Oh, I've got that weekend road trip coming up, so I'm going to hit the DCFC charger on the way back home or on the way out of town, and I'll top off. And there's different ways to approach it. This is a great question. Let's see. Um, any other questions that
Yeah,
jumped out?
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's answer Lewis's question, which is how can we apply for a rebate if we've already have an EV outlet installed?
Melanie, you want to field that one?
Yeah, so we don't offer rebates in spaces, like for one specific parking space. If that parking space already has a charger outlet installed, we're not going to be able to offer a rebate there. However, as soon as if you're interested in adding more chargers, adding different chargers, if you have, 4 spaces and you only have one charger already, we absolutely can help you put chargers in the other 3 spaces at that site.
Very good. Let's see. Let's look at,
Next
yeah, go ahead.
question is from Bill. Let's see.
I see that. I think let's answer Bill's question offline. It's a
Okay.
good question, but I'm gonna go ahead and dismiss that one from the Q&A, and we'll Bill, reach out to us offline. We'll be happy to talk to you about it. Renee has a question. Says we're an HOA with a group of 3 to 4 remote garages that are on community electricity. Folks are currently charging in the garage, quote unquote, for free. Their houses/units are on specific, I'm assuming, circuit to their unit meter. We worked with PCE in the past. Let's see, reapply for, okay, so you're asking, should you reapply? Short answer is yes. I think you should contact Michael. Michael is the person, Renee, that you'll want to talk to. Steve, if you can answer to Renee and just pop in, or Michael, if you can put in your email address on there, I think that would be a perfect
I will.
question for.
I'll put in the program information email, and I will take care of that.
Yeah, I would
Perfect.
say you don't have
Okay.
to submit a new application if you've worked with us in the past. Just
Yeah.
reach out via email or phone, and yeah, we can get back in touch and pick up on your project.
Excellent. Okay, we have a great question here. Ooh, this is a technical one. I love these kinds of questions. Okay, the question is, why not 25% charging for 4 cars, 20% for 5 cars, etc.? Does the load manager require a minimum charging level? Ooh, that is such a good question. Short answer is yes. Well, with a caveat, it's not the load manager that requires the minimum charging. It's actually CalGreen. CalGreen states that they have to, an ALMS has to deliver a minimum of 3.3 kilowatt hours per. That's the minimum that gets delivered per charger. Most EV manufacturer, like the OEMs, when they build the EVs, they make it so that the minimum is 8 amps of current has to be flowing to actually affect a charge. But the real answer to your question is it depends. The example that I used in the presentation was a circuit sharing situation where you had one 40 amp circuit and you were sharing it with up to a maximum of 4 chargers. Now, there's also panel sharing. So there are other strategies to use on this. And also, we would look at what kind of cars are we charging here? Like, what's the end game? Are these just tenants in an apartment building, or is this a fleet vehicle situation? There's a lot that goes into that calculation, but it's a great question, and it's opened up a whole bunch of rabbit holes that I'm gonna work so hard not to go down, because I would love to go down those rabbit holes, but I'm not gonna do it. So but definitely reach out to us, anonymous attendee. We would be happy to answer that question in more depth for your specific location. Let's see. Does the load manager know when a car is fully charged and then automatically switch capacity to another car, or must the car owner physically disconnect the charger? It's actually the first one. If you look at the J plug, I'm going to pull up that slide real quick. If you look at the J plug, you'll notice that there are 5 pins on a J plug. So I'm looking for that. There it is, this slide. So if you look, you'll see these 5 pins. Each one of those 5 pins has a very specific task. So some of them are communicating between the charger to the car. Some of them are to the car back to the charger. But yeah, when the car tells the charger, I'm done, I'm full, then the module has a contactor in it that basically disengages the contact and says, okay, that car is done charging, and it'll disconnect. And you'll hear it. There's actually a physical disconnect that happens on the EV that sounds kind of like a dunk, dunk, and you can hear the contacts separating. So yeah, it's the charger and the car communicating with each other, saying, "Hey, I'm full," and then the charger disconnects it, and then it moves on to the next. That frees up that capacity to share with the other cars that are plugged in. Ooh, that's a good question. I love questions like that. Okay. The audience may want to know what Cal Green is. Ooh, who wants to field this one? Melanie, you want to take what Cal Green is?
Yeah, Cal Green is our California Green Building Standards Code. You might also hear it referred to as Title 24. People, especially when you're planning a new construction building, people often talk about Title 24 requirements. So yeah, this is just a way of, there are green building standards in terms of there are a required amount of electric vehicle chargers. Actually, the current code requires a mix of lower power receptacles and level 2 chargers. And so, yeah, it's important to know that there is a certain level required by code when building new construction. And we also can help answer questions and provide recommendations to help contractors meet code. Like I said, we can't always provide incentives if you're a market rate to meet code, but we still can provide that information and support.
Perfect. There's a really good question on here. Can I use a special extension cord if needed? And the short answer is no, you don't want to use an extension cord of any type with an EV charger because there's the potential of a fire hazard if you use an extension cord. So generally speaking, I would say reach out to our technical advising. Let's find out what's going on at your site. Let's put the chargers closer to the EVs so that you don't need to use an extension cord. And if you have to use an extension cord, then we'll help you figure out a cord management system to get you the appropriate length connector cable. Great question, though. All right, we're just about at the top of the hour. I think we've answered just about all the questions. And it looks like we still have a few people on. That's great. Who have stuck around for the whole hour. Any closing thoughts? Tell you what, I'll start with Michael, and then I'll hand it over to Melanie, and we'll wrap up. And before I wrap up and hand it over to Michael, I'm just going to point out that Melanie mentioned this at the very top of the webinar, that everyone who registered for this webinar will get this PowerPoint as a PDF, and the PDF includes a whole section of this appendix with all these resources. So there's all kinds. These are all of our trade allies who have been vetted by the program and that we work with very frequently to install EV chargers. So all their contact information is there. I also put this link to some fact sheets that were put together by the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission. Just some great information if you want some additional reading. And I'll hand it over to Michael for final thoughts.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you to everybody who attended today, and hopefully you found this information to be of great use. Be it you're ready to go today, or you're thinking, hey, maybe I'm going to revisit this 6 months down the road or at some point in the future. But I think the important thing to know is, as I illustrated earlier in the presentation, that EVs are here to stay. The population here, particularly in the Bay Area, is growing tremendously year over year. And so with that said, when people purchase EVs, they're going to take that into consideration in terms of their workplace as well as their residence. And I think that you want to take all that into consideration for your site in terms of adding EV equipment to meet the growing demand. It can be used also or seen as an additional amenity which enhances the value of your property as well. And I think that's kind of about it. But again, thank you for attending, and look forward to seeing some of you soon.
Before we all go, we did get, oh, we had one last question. It may have been disappeared. Hold on. Where did it go? Where did it go?
I
Oh,
answered it. I saw
okay.
it. I just went
All
ahead
right.
and
Never
responded.
mind.
That it's a great question. What I would say is just go and reach out to us, and we'll help you offline.
Yep.
Melanie,
The
final
short
thoughts.
answer is that if you install level 2 charger with an NACS connector, that's also acceptable in our program, but we could help you talk through recommendations. But yeah, I mean, my final thoughts. Thank you all today for joining again. We are here to help you answer these specific technical questions. Please reach out to us. I think, do we want to say, Steve, do you want to give an answer, or George? It looks like we just got that in the chat about who the best person to reach out to. So you can reach out to our support, but also the best way to get in touch with us if you do have a property in our service territory that qualifies is to scan this code or go to the website, which I believe is also in this presentation, where you can actually sign up for technical assistance directly. And that's just going to get you, you will hear from us directly right after you sign up, and we'll get in touch and we can start to talk through your specific site scenario. And yeah, and thank you again, everyone, for joining us. And thank you for all the really insightful questions in the chat as well.
Always fun to have a really engaged.
#8561. You are only going to get one person. That is me. I will be happy to help you. If I don't pick up, please just leave a message. I will get back to you. And then also right there below that is our email address, which I typically am the one who answers most of those as well. So we'll get back to you relatively quickly there. And then that link directly above the PCE EV at clearresult.com/link. That is what you would use to sign up for the free technical assistance. If I have questions after I see your application come in, I will reach out to you directly. Otherwise, Michael will be reaching out to you as he starts the initial outreach process. I can talk, I swear. So that's all I had. Thank you, George.
Excellent. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you for all the attendees and all your wonderful questions. And we look forward to being in touch with you very soon and providing you with wonderful assistance and helping you get some EV charging installed at your sites. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great rest of the day, and we look forward to connecting with you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.